It's funny how life works in such mysterious ways. Men go through their younger years being invisible to women, and women turn 30 and turn invisible to men. One of the reasons that 80% of divorce actions are initiated by the wife is that they make out pretty good in the divorce. They get the house, at least half of your assets, vehicles, alimony, and child support. The husband gets a dumpy one-bedroom apartment and a deadbeat car. God forbid he gets a second job to help his financial situation, because she'll go after that too. He'll pay mandated child support for the privilege of seeing his kids 2 weekends a month. The courts are biased against fathers because mothers are natural nurturers. Women are confronted with an overwhelming reality as they get older. They begin to understand that sooner or later, they will no longer be able to get the same attention and validation they were used to getting in their 20s. They will not be able to procreate, giving birth will become more difficult, and they must quickly find a partner, settle down, and have a family. This typically affects women in their mid to late 30s. The wall, which is another term for the upcoming period when the biological clock begins to slow down and eventually come to a stop, is something that the majority of women are not prepared for. These women also realize that no matter how much success they chase, they will still feel a void in their hearts because they could only climb the corporate ladder at the expense of not having or not starting a family and settling down with a decent guy. Many women in their early 30s have had successful success, catching men's attention for more than 20 years. The desire to date women in their prime has been and will continue to exist in males as young as their early 20s, and even as old as their 50s and 60s. They've created, in their minds, the ideal partner. It's a dream, but it's still their dream. They're holding out for this figment of their imagination, the man they truly deserve, for so long that many potential boyfriends have been overlooked. They feel that if they end up with anything less than that dream man, they're settling. God help any man that marries someone like this, because no matter how great you are, they'll always be resentful that you weren't really Mr. Right. Young women have received the attention they have always desired from men of all ages and social backgrounds who have shown them love and given them validation for free. A lot of women have told me stories about how when they were in their mid-20s, dodgy 50-year-old guys would hit on them, and when they turned 25, high school boys would try to get them to go on dates with them. There was a certain imbalance of the men's ages who usually pursued these women. In this sense, the world is open to us men, but not to women. This is because women reach the pinnacle of their lives in their 20s, and after that, their value begins to fall. Men, however, reach their peak after their 30s, and their value continues to rise until their 50s. When they are in their 20s, most women can easily catch the attention of men of any age, but beyond the age of 30 to 35, when their appearance begins to deteriorate, the interest of teenagers, 20-somethings, and even men of their own age starts to fade as they start to focus on younger women instead. Many women believe that the men in their age groups don't treat them fairly. Women who are 35 years old question why guys their age don't want to date and marry them. In actuality, a 35-year-old man with a job, resources, and a car can seduce younger, more attractive women in their 20s. Before becoming engaged and eventually getting married, most men need to spend a year or two getting to know a woman. Because of this, if a man marries a 35-year-old woman, after undergoing this process, she won't give birth until she's 38, thus decreasing her chances of having children. Early to mid-30s, women must start thinking about males in their late 30s, 40s, and possibly even 50s as potential partners. Many of these older men are now the only ones left on the market because they have already had children and marriages. If these men are divorced, they likely already have children, and they might want a second wife. Some of the mid-30s women I know don't seem to want to accept this. They claim that only older men are looking at them, and they find it repulsive. These same ladies spent their 20s hopping from one fling to another, and now they're confused about what happened. They didn't anticipate finding themselves in this situation, and things weren't supposed to turn out this way. Many of them find it shocking that men select women rather than women selecting men. It's challenging for women to accept that they aren't being pursued in the same way they once were, since the natural order of relationships has been turned in favor of males. Only a small percentage of guys who have been physically burned by women have an understanding of the plight of women in their 30s, and are now the men they choose to date instead of the entire male side of the human race. It's even worse for women who have an obsession with having babies. They don't care how they can get one because they want a child so desperately. They will sleep around unprotected and claim to be taking the pill when they are not. I met a man who had 3 children in 3 years with 3 separate women, all of whom claimed to be taking the pill. He is currently supporting 2 children and residing with the lady who gave birth to his 3rd child. I used to believe that once their friends started having babies, a lot of ladies my age would start having children as well, especially in the group of individuals I hang out with. Many of my female friends who are in partnerships and are in their mid-30s have decided against having children at all. A lot of the ladies in groups of 10 to 15 who hang out together choose not to have children. The few women who had children are no longer allowed into this particular social circle, since these 35-year-old women are still partying and clubbing like they did in their 20s. I find it disgusting that women go to cougar clubs to meet young men looking to get in bed with old and bored women. The fact that the majority of these 25-year-old men are simply concerned with getting laid seriously damages the self-esteem of many women. They don't appear to care, though. They crave the attention of young, attractive guys, so they want to extend the party a little bit longer before they approach middle age. Many women experience the second wall in their early to mid-40s, and by that time, many have lost the capacity to entice even 20-year-old gentlemen who are only interested in physical intimacy. They typically begin gaining weight and enter menopause at that time. Asian and black women age more slowly than white women, yet once they start to lose their beauty, many of them age rapidly. In the space of a few years, a 38 or 39-year-old Asian lady may transform from looking like she's 29 or 32 to looking as if she's in her early 40s. Women often mature earlier than men do when they are teenagers because they have historically had the reproductive advantage when it comes to passing on their genes. This is because, especially at times in our history when resources were scarce, the earlier women mature, the higher the prospects are for the survival of our species. They will, however, wither earlier as well, because they flower earlier. Men with money and resources are more likely to attract women, and smart men who put out the effort and save money will only become more alluring to women over time. Women in their prime go to clubs in order to live off of the attention and validation they receive from men of all sizes and ages. Young girls who frequent clubs are real crowd pullers too. They raise the level of that club and enable more ticket sales, along with the sales of drinks inside. Since everybody wants to go to clubs that are frequented by young and beautiful girls in their prime, the brand equity of those clubs increases exponentially. I believe the reality for women starts to hit them in their 30s. They spend their 20s partying away, chasing the bad boys, chasing the highs and the tattoos and the clubs, and living off of the free and unlimited validation and attention they get from thirsty men. In their 30s, reality hits them hard. They no longer get men drooling over them in nightclubs. They no longer get the free validation they're used to. The guys who used to party with them have now settled and living stable and happy lives with their wives. So these women find that society has moved on around while they're still stuck in their 20s mindset. Then they also start to realize they're nearing the end of their biological clock, which makes them enter panic mode and desperately search for a man. The same nice and sensible guy they used to make fun of in their 20s. The same guy who's now a millionaire and happily living with his young wife and enjoying life. So, it is really funny how life works in such mysterious ways. Men go through their younger years being invisible to women, and women turn 30 and turn invisible to men. Thanks for watching The Circle of Kings. As always, we're looking forward to your support. So please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything all kings like yourself need to know.